Good afternoon, good afternoon. How are you? I'm fine, thank you as well. I'm looking forward to spending time with you. Today to have a few presentations. Sizi will start. We'll read his profile just now, and then Ms. Venya will continue, then Mr. Bansa, Mr. Kingsley, and then myself. Then tomorrow you're going to have another session which will be about joint body. So today, the whole day today, we're only speaking, talking, assessment throughout the day. I hope you guys have got quite a lot of questions for us, and we have a lot of questions for you already. So we want to see who's going to be with us quite a lot of questions. So, without wasting any time, this is Sizi Botsime and his philosophy in education. Hey. So he starts off with a quote and he says, success is using the skills and knowledge acquired to transform the lives of the people in your community. That's Sizi Botsime. Sizi Matthews, I know you're going to say Matthews. Sizi Matthews Botsime comes from the dusty streets of Rockland in Bloemfontein, South Africa. His degrees are in psychology, history, geography, life orientation, and remedial education. Advanced diploma from Nelson Mandela University, Rhodes University, and the University of Johannesburg. He is pursuing a postgraduate diploma in teaching and learning center and support at the University of South Africa. He is highly qualified teacher. Also, let me pull that. I feel nervous now. Okay. So I'm going to read the last sentence again. He is a highly qualified and experienced teacher, specializing in learning support, remedial, and special education. His teaching experiences are ranging from kindergarten, KG ones, the little ones, to the secondary school. Further, he taught in the Republic of South Africa, Bahrain, Egypt, and Ghana. He has worked in mainstream and special education. He is passionate about working with children on the autism spectrum, as well as intellectual disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sizi Botsime.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. You know, yesterday we had interaction with the staff, and it was lovely to see everyone. And we are very pleased that we have people joining us today. And what we said yesterday when the principal gave us an opportunity to talk to the staff, we wanted to reiterate that we are not here just to give knowledge, but we are also here to learn, right? Because personally, I firmly and strongly believe that, as teachers, we are lifelong learners. As a teacher, you don't stop learning, So some of the things we are going to say is just to remind us that we are on the right track. Some of us, we are going to reflect on the things that we want to do. Probably we'll get some guidance and so forth. So please, we hope that the sessions they are going to be interactive. If you have any question, please raise up your hand, ask any questions, because we don't want to just come and just dump the information or the insight and then go. So without much further ado, thank you very much, KG, for introducing me. So the reason why we are here today, our topic, we're going to look at assessment, right? The assessment process, because assessment is not just the thing we do at the end of the unit or the end of the term. We're just going to look at as a process, looking at an overview. Just like KG said, my name is Sizi Botsime. I am from South Africa, but I'm currently working and living in Ghana at the Ghana International School. So KG alluded to my philosophy, right? It's very important that as teachers, Usually I like to put my, the participants on spot and ask you, what is your education philosophy? What is your education philosophy? So today I'm not going to do that, because it's very important for us to have an education philosophy, right? You cannot just go to classroom and go and teach. What is education? What is your own view? What is your own understanding? Because we just don't go to class and then take the knowledge, impart the knowledge, right? If anyone has ever read a book by Paulo Freire, he speaks about pedagogy of the oppressed, right? So he's saying that as teachers, we are like, we are cups that is filled with information, and then we just pour into, so it's called it the depositor and then depositee. So we just take knowledge, but education is not about that, right? So other aspect of my philosophy, I think the people in the lower grades, the KG, you would resonate with this, or you will be conversant with this. I'm a Montessori fanatic, right? I love, or I follow, or I strongly believe in Maria Montessori philosophy that children, they learn through play, right? And play is very important. So she says, so just to give you a gist, if you are not familiar, the approach, a Montessori environment is designed to meet the developmental and individual learning needs of children. The program allows children to take charge, which is student-centered learning of their learning, so they can fulfill their own needs. So basically, if your school has a KG section, when you are free, go and look at what they do. That is everything kind of like revolved around the Montessori approach. So basically, that is my philosophy. So please, before we start, I just want you to take a few minutes, and if you could help me, Mr. Bansa, if you could write 1 or 2 expectations. What are you hoping to expect? What do you expect to learn from this? What do you expect to take from this session? So we'll give about 5 minutes. If you could just write 1 or 2 things. My colleagues will give you please, Madam, can you please give them pencils? 1 or 2 things that you hope to take away with you today. If you are done, just give it to me so that we can paste it on the flip chart. So we'll have about 5 minutes when you are assessing the children, and especially now, post-COVID-19. Our children, they can't read, they can't write. We are struggling with a whole lot of things. So what are some of the challenges you have when it comes to assessment? Maybe that could be your expectation, that you expect to learn 1 or 2 things. If you are done, please just raise up your hand so I can take the paper from you. Thank you very much. So without much further ado, let us look at the overview of this training. So the purpose of this professional development course is to provide participants with an overview of key elements of classroom assessment. This course will cover the skills necessary to develop effective classroom assessment. Participants will learn the importance of effective communication skills, organizational skills, time management, and critical thinking to function as a team. Because, we are working as a team. Please, you don't have to write this. We'll send it to you. You'll have the PDF document of it. So, okay. Now, let us look at the objectives. So the objectives of this training: to analyze the educational theories, right? Understand Bloom's taxonomy as a theoretical framework for assessment. I think we are familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy. Determining the purpose of assessment, and then explore the different types of assessment. Now, when I asked about education, your education philosophy, the question that follows is, what theory underpins your educational philosophy? And I've mentioned that I am a Maria Montessori fanatic. So her theory, it scaffolds or underpins my education philosophy. And this will also take us back to those of us who studied education. We've studied the 6 big theories, which we are going to look at, and which some of you employ in your teaching. So the first one is Vygotsky. I think we are familiar with Vygotsky. So Vygotsky, I think mostly they employed in the kindergarten. They speak about the ZDP, the zone of proximal development. And then the second theory is Joan Piaget, right? The schema. He says that the schema, right? What did I say? The schema, right? Piaget. So it is already the kids when they come to class, which is also what who's that guy mentioned from Brazil? Paulo Freire says that, children, they don't come to class empty-handed. They come to class with prior knowledge, right? Yeah, ma'am, you want to share something? I see you're nodding, you share, right? So he talks about that. And then we have the Skinner. So Skinner is talking about behaviorism, right? So I always tell my teachers that we can make or break the children, right? The words we utter as teachers. Because teachers, our tongue is very powerful. What you say to a child, it will last forever. They'll never forget what you tell them, right? If you tell them you can do it, they will do it. But if you tell them, you, don't even try, right? Don't even try. You. Okay, so behaviorism, it says positive reinforcement, right? Okay, come on, I know all of us, we do that, right? Because we believe in our children. And then we have Branner, which he talks about the spiral curriculum. And then Benjamin Bloom, which we our focus. This is the nexus, or the focal point of our what is this? Our presentation. And then the last one is Howard Gardner. So Howard Gardner talks about MI, right? Multiple intelligence. So the people that were here last year, you'd remember I spoke about using a multisensory approach, because children, they assimilate or they process information differently. Some are visual, some are auditory, some are tactile, kinesthetic, right? So, but Gardner talks about 8 things, right? He breaks it into 8 segments. So going back to, please, I only have 1 hour, so if I'm moving too fast, please tell me to slow down, because I have verbal diarrhea, so I try to say much. So basically, it's very important that as teachers, when we plan, when we assess, we take these theories into consideration, right? We do. It's just that we do. It's just that it's not. We are not conscious about it. And then, assessment. My colleague, what is assessment? We know what is assessment, right? We know what is assessment. But I really like what my colleague over there, Ms. Venyo, asked the principal of the school. So today I'm going to put her on the spot. So she asked, what is the vision and the mission of the school, right? So what is the vision and the mission of the school? So Ms. Venyo, our school, what is the vision and the mission of our school? And how is that aligned to the way we assess our children?
Okay. So normally we have the vision, the mission, we have the motto, and we have the 6 attributes. So the kids are supposed to show us that they think critically, they are socially responsible. So through that, they emulate what we have in the vision and in the motto too.
Yeah, so thank you very much for sharing that. So Ms. Vanyo alluded to some of our attributes, right? The attributes or the values that we want. When you see a GIS child, they should exhibit those traits. So one of them is being a critical thinker, right? So when you ask a question, right, it's one of the things. When we assess, we want to see if our children can become, so we want them to employ them into you know, when they try and answer the question, right? And then the other one is, you know, discipline. We have internationally minded, communicate effectively. So sometimes, you know, we are having, because we're going to talk about types of assessment. So a discussion is also a type of assessment. So we are very intentional that when we assess them, you know, when we assess them, we want to see if they can employ that attributes of being somebody who can communicate effectively, or they can, yes. So we know what is assessment and what we, you know, but now it's very important that we look at, when we assess, our assessment, is it aligned with our vision and mission? Because we all want, when our kids leave Henry House, right? What is our goal? Where do we want to see them? What skills, what attributes, what character do we want to, you know, we want to see as an end product? So it's very vital, it's very important that we take that into consideration. Please, any questions so far? Any input? Am I going too fast? Oh, okay, thank you. So now we're going to look at the, I said we're going to look at the focus. It's Bloom's taxonomy. They say it's a hierarchical framework for cognition and learning. So often we talk about this man, but I don't think most of us, we know him, right? We just know his name. So even myself, I just recently learned how he looked like. So this is Benjamin Bloom. So Benjamin Bloom in 1956, he developed this framework, a hierarchical framework, right? Which was in 2001, it was revised. And kudos to the two people. I don't know if Lauren is a man or woman. So Lauren and David, they revised the theory in 2001. And then the significant change that they made, they took out synthesis. So synthesis, if you are familiar, conversant with Mr. Albake will also allude to that. It's on top, right? It's on top. So they replace synthesis with creation. So that will be like your high order. So this, it helps us with the way we structure our assessment. I had a conversation yesterday with the assistant head here and the class 5 teacher, right? And I was very pleased that, and I think the other school, they are also doing that. So this is the revised, yes, this is the revised Bloom's taxonomy, right? So we move from, we call these our low order, our middle order, and then our high order question, right? So in the remember, we want the children to recall and remember basic concepts, right? And then understand, we want them to explain ideas or concept. And then the middle order, we want them to apply by using information in new situation. So we want to see how would they use the information. So those of you maybe in the upper classes will talk about different types of assessment. When you do, I love simulation based. So simulation is like project based, where the children actually have to, you give them real life situations, right? So they are part of the process. So in that case, they need to apply and then analyze. They have to draw connection amongst ideas and then evaluate. So they need to judge, give judgment. Is this right? Is this wrong? So this will be, even the lower ones, you can also ask them, like, give them option. Okay, this one or this one, and then why? Why do you choose this one? So in that they are evaluating. And then create, right? Create is the last one, where they have to produce a new or original, which Mr. Otu will emphasize on when he's doing assessment in art. But it can be done in any learning area. So what they are saying with a revised Bloom's taxonomy, because Bloom said this is hierarchical, right? But now the revised one, they say it's more of a spectrum, right? So by that, we allow these verbs to be used across, right, madam? To be used across. So we don't just say define when we ask low order question. We can ask them to define in their creation. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, so far, any questions? Are we following? Okay, thank you. Okay, now, how do we assess based on Bloom's taxonomy? So my question to the class 5 teacher yesterday and the assistant head, I asked them, do we have an assessment policy in our school? Do we have assessment plan that guides us? What are we assessing? Right? Mr. Albaking has mentioned, you know, all the places I've been to. So I've taught in different schools, I've taught different curriculums, right? So some are rigid where they tell you that, okay, in a term, you need 2 projects, 1 written, 1, but in some curriculums, like when I was in Egypt, I taught the Ontario, which is more, it's flexible. So the teacher, I'm at liberty to assess when and how my students. So I don't have to do like a formative or a summative. It depends on me, you know. And it was a very good because I really liked it. It was more cross-curricular. I can just give one assessment that encompasses all the learning areas. So cross-curricular, which I think we can also do. It's doable if there's a communication amongst. That's why if you go back to the overview, I'll quickly go back to the overview. I said, you know, we are going to, participants will learn the importance of communicating effectively, right? Critical thinking to function as a team. So perhaps as a team, maybe you can get together and say, okay, we can have one project that encompasses different learning areas. Okay. And people will ask, okay, how do you mark that? You can have a generic rubric that actually highlight the key things that you are looking for in a particular or specific subject. We said Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchical classification of cognitive skills that helps in teaching and learning. Now, what are the uses of Bloom's taxonomy? Why do we use this? It helps us to plan our lesson, right? Because obviously, we know, we've learned that when we did our training, every lesson must have an objective, right? So we, with our curriculum, we have the learning objective and the assessment criteria, right? So I don't know your system, but I think you also have the same. It helps you to create assessment. It helps you to develop project, frame a discussion, right? You know, in the morning when you come, you are going to engage your students. So you go to, you go back to the, so you look, okay, maybe the discussion, I want my students to be analytical, right? I want my students to be able to evaluate. I want my students to understand. The purpose of this is to understand. I want my students to remember. I'll give you a practical example. When I was teaching in one high school in South Africa, we're looking at abortion, right? And we know that abortion is a very sensitive topic, right? It's a very sensitive topic. And when it comes to abortion, you have 2 groups. You have group that is pro-abortion, and then you have group that is anti or anti-abortion, right? So my objective when I framed that, discussion was to make my students understand. That was my objective, to understand that, you know what, you have 2 groups. It's okay to think that abortion is a good thing. It's also okay to think that abortion is not a good thing. But you need to understand that, you know what, other people have their own perspective and how and what they think, you know, you should be, even though you don't agree with it, but at least have an understanding where they come from. Does that make sense? And it was a very interesting lesson which I had about, it's about 2012, so 8, yeah. So, and I remember one of the students in my class, cried, right? Because it was very, very emotional. So that we can bring, now we are talking about the 21st century skills, empathy, you know. So, okay, so it can also help us to evaluate the complexity of the project. I was very pleased that myself and the class 5 teacher, when she does the assessment, she does station work, right? So the children will be moving from one group to the other, right? So they'll have group 1 where they do something. So the more they move, the more complex the project or the activity becomes, right? And that is also what we refer to as differentiation, right? We are differentiating. I think you also use a lot of that in the kindergarten, and you'll speak about that tomorrow in your presentation. And also self-assessment. Self-assessment. I mean, how many of us, we let our student self-assess? With now the new thing that we are using, at the end of the unit, we give students a reflection paper. So they need to reflect on the unit. Okay, what are the things that they found easy, the things that they found challenging, and then the things that they found difficult. So that could also be why we use the Bloom's taxonomy. Now let us look at the purpose of assessment. Please, I said, if you have any question, if you have anything to share, reflect on your classroom. If there's something that you are doing in the classroom, please do share, okay? Because I said I want this to be more engaging, because it's not me coming with the knowledge. I also want to learn from you, okay? So the purpose of assessment, why do we assess our students? That's why I said I was very happy when my colleague asked about the vision and the mission of the statement. That should be why we assess our children primarily, why we assess them, because we want them at the end to show 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So now, using the assessment, we know as teachers we gain knowledge or insight into students' progress. We can see where our students are, you know, in grade level. The understanding can inform teaching strategies and lead to different adaptations. So sometimes I always tell teachers that also the way we teach can be a barrier to learning, right? Our pedagogy, right? Our pedagogy can be a barrier to learning. Sometimes the way you teach, right? You know, because the way we explain things, it might be complex, might be difficult for the kids. And I always say that your learning style as a teacher, it influences your pedagogy, your approach. The way you learn is the way you teach. You agree? Thumbs up if you agree. The way we learn yourself, when you learn. Myself, I'm a visual learner. I'm also studying. He mentioned that I'm pursuing. I have my notes, very colorful. I love color. I love diagrams and whatnot. When I teach, when I prepare my slides, I want a lot of color, right? And I'm also kinesthetic because I don't like sitting down. If I sit down, I was that child that was, you know, this child can sit down in the class because I need what? I need movement, right? I need to be stimulated. And we all have those children that, right? That this child can't sit down. It's because they need to move. That's how they learn, right? That's how they learn. They need to move. I have a young girl in my class. That girl, she'll be doing aerobics, you know, or I don't know what you call it, these things. She'll be twisting her body, but you ask her what I said, she will tell you. She'll be drawing and doing this fidgeting and whatnot because she needs that movement. I got to a point where, like, I don't expect her to sit like this and no, right? As long as she's listening, because that is her what? That is a learning style. That's how she consumes or, you know, she receives information. So what I'm saying is the way we learn as teachers, the way we learn, it influences how we teach. If you can do, if you don't know, you can do a test, a learning style online. It will tell you. So according to research, they say that you have 2 dominant. So there's visual, there's auditory, there's kinesthetic. Myself, I'm visual kinesthetic. So I need to see and I need to move. Some people are auditory, right? Some people are auditory. You know, you have that child in your class always dancing, they like music and what. That's how they learn. You know, that's how they learn. So, okay, so if you have that, the understanding or the knowledge, yes, please.
So then how do you handle them?
How do you handle them? That's a very good question. Then it means that you need to adapt. You need to adapt your strategy, right? Last year is a pity the internet is giving us, but we'll find there's what they call vocabulary, right? In America, they're using that to teach math. It's rap, right? There'll be rapping. You know, when you're doing like long division, there's a strategy KCF. You keep, change, flip, right? I'll find the video and then I will play it for you. So they use it that if you do that, your children will be engaged. That's why now we need to kind of like, because you know we are in the 21st century, artificial intelligence. We need to employ that in our class. Or you even yourself can come up with a song. You know, I think the kindergarten people, when you are doing your Jolly Phonics, you know, you come up with songs. You know, you come up with songs. There's one teacher in South Africa, he's teaching math, high school. The children are singing in his math lesson. He's a colleague of mine. I'll find his video as well and show you. High school, even the other one was teaching, I was taken aback. He was teaching the life science, what do you call it when a woman, the process when a woman becomes pregnant? The reproductive system. So he was teaching the reproductive system. The kids were singing. They were singing, it's mitosis, meiosis, and he came up with a song. And you could see that the student, I mean, they'll sing it. They'll sing. We all know that when you're children, you are sent to the shop, right? You be, whatever you're told, you'll sing it until you get there so that you don't forget it, right? Right? Yeah. So that's a very good question. You just need to adapt your teaching strategy, right? Find a song, you know, you create a song and engage them. And then assessments aren't only for students. They provide you with actionable feedback. I always say as a teacher, you need to be reflective. Like looking after every assessment, you need to check, okay, but I think my student didn't do well. Right? So what do I need to do? The action that I need to take. It means let me go to my colleague and find out how do you teach this topic? How do you, do that? How do you please help me? So you are taking an action, right? To improve your instruction. You look on, please, if you are not on TikTok, be on TikTok. Teachers are doing amazing things on TikTok. There are lots of things that you can learn on TikTok. Okay, I don't know, are you on TikTok? You type how to teach maths. You see somebody teaching whatever topic in a funny, very engaging way. Because our kids these days, they are not like us, right? Yeah, they are not like us. They can't even sit for 10 minutes and listen. Yeah, yes please.
Yeah, if that's the case, how then do you put a learner that learns from vision, and then that one with the auditory, and the one that has to be moving, how do you then put all those keys together?
That's why you use what you call multi-sensory approach. I need something that is round. Do you have a hula hoop? I use the hula hoop. I'll show you, I'll demonstrate. Okay, so let's say we're learning about circles in right shape, class 1. We're learning about shapes, right? So we want to make sure that at the end of the lesson, the kids will understand circle. That's our objective, right? So now we are going to use what you call multi-sensory approach. So in your planning, you cater for the auditory, for the visual, and then the kinesthetic, right? So first thing, maybe you play a video. A song about circles, right? You sing, you can even sing or make circles, with your hands, right? So by doing that, you are catering for the kids that are what? That are kinesthetic, right? If you have the song, those that are auditory are listening, right? And then if you have like a poster, right? Or even an actual one, then they can see it, they can touch it. That's multisensory. So they can see, they can hear, they can touch, they can draw. right? Like you say, make any. I think, you know, the little one, when you teach them, right in the air, right? You do O, A. So that is multisensory approach. So you must make sure that every lesson should employ, or you should cater for the different learning styles. You got that? Sure. Okay. Thank you. Can I move on? Any question, any input? Please share, please share, please share. Please, okay. Because I want people to talk, please, I feel. Okay, so now, the purpose of assessment, according to Prodigy, which I think is very important, is that when we assess students, we should assess students in a meaningful way. Assessing students in meaningful ways can help motivate and empower them to grow as they become agents of their own learning. So assessment should not be about getting grades, and it should not be about you as a teacher, that, oh, me, I produce good results. Those should know I'm better than my colleague. That should not be the purpose of assessment, right? The purpose is it should be meaningful, right? And help students, it should motivate and empower them to become what? Agents of their own learning. So they should believe that they are capable of doing things, right? It should not be about us. It should not be about impressing our headmasters or headmistresses or the district officials. It should be about the children being motivated, empowered, and also taking charge of their learning. So I think this is very powerful. Now, the types of assessments which we are doing. So the first one, diagnostic. Most of us, we do it at the beginning of the year, right? At the beginning of the year. Imagine, we know our diagnostic are not, I always question the reliability and validity of our diagnostic, because our kids go on break for 12 weeks, right? No, we in the international school, we close for summer, right? So that is the whole of July, the August, and then they come back in September. So imagine a child who's not been learning for 12 weeks. You teach them something today, tomorrow as they've forgotten. So what about something that you taught 12 weeks ago? Will they remember? So we do that, we do our diagnostic, and then from that, it's very detrimental to children because we start boxing them. Okay, but a diagnostic, the purpose of diagnostic is to understand the student's knowledge. It benchmarks students' progress because we want to know where they are. So these are examples. You can use short quizzes, which my colleagues will elaborate on. The journal entries, the language teachers, I think we do that, right? When they come back, write about your holidays, right? Write about your holidays. We want to know how your holidays, then we are looking for if they can construct a sentence, if they can use part of speech, punctuations, and so forth. A student interview, you know, if you have small class, you know, you can engage with, even if a big class, you know, even if it won't be all of them. Then we have our formative. We know that the formative is to track how students' knowledge is growing and changing, right? So if you, okay, I've been teaching this, I want to see if my student understand, right? And then you assess them, right? You want to see if their knowledge is growing or changing. And then it's short, easy to grade, and then it's consistent. So it's ongoing. So it could be a classroom discussion, entry, exit ticket. How many of us do that? I like doing that. Because before break time, they love their break time. Before their break time, tell them, before you leave, tell me one thing. Then they will tell you. Then they will tell you. And then in the morning also, when they come in, you can use it as an entry. Okay, tell me about this, tell me about that. What did you learn? What did you not learn? And then group project, which is my, I love group project because I think it's very important that we teach our children to work in a group, to collaborate. Because teamwork, I don't know in your schools, but where I come from, and other schools that I've taught in, it's a big challenge. You know, it's a big challenge. Our children cannot collaborate, and it's one skill that we need. you know. Okay, then summative. A summative assessment provides data for teacher, leader, and officials. So we all know that your headmaster at the end of the term, they will look at your results. Okay, how did your students do? Maybe sometimes the district officials will come and say, okay, we want to see how the students are doing in math. So that will be like your standardized tests, right? Standardized test, which we give maybe at the end of the term, end of the year. Now, ipsative. Ipsative, where's the, I was talking to you about it. No, where's the assistant head? He's not around. Ipsative, we're talking about it. And then the boy came to the class yesterday, and then he sent him back because I asked about, ipsative is like retesting, right? Retesting your child. So ipsative, students are motivated to improve their skills by comparing their previous results, right? So if a student didn't do well, I ask if you do that. If a student didn't do well, right? And somehow you believe that this student is capable, right? And then you can retest them. But you need to make them aware that you are giving them this chance to what? To improve their previous results, right? You know, because sometimes it's a pity because of time. I wanted to also talk about the Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right? Because they say, there's a very nice quote I shared, that before a child can bloom, they need to Maslow, right? So what that means is, before the child can do well, a series of their needs needs to be met, right? Because we don't know where our children are coming from. Some children come from a very broken family, but we know this child is capable. Maybe yesterday mommy and daddy were fighting, there was no food, there was no electricity, a child might have experienced trauma and what, you know, those things. We know our students, right? And we know where they come from, we know their needs. So because of that, you know, we can give them a second chance to, you know, to retake the test to improve their previous results. So this could be done in, the boy was doing what yesterday? He was doing his learning airway, right? So the boy came when we were having a meeting, and then the assistant head sent the boy back and said, please go and fix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So you can do that. Creative writing. So you ask the children to write the draft. I think we do that, Ms. Venue. So we look at their first draft, and then, okay, we make, okay, you know, how about, you know, you did not include, because we also give them what? For self-assessment, we give them a checklist to make sure that, oh, I have introduction, I have my body, I have my conclusion. So you as a teacher will come and say, okay, let me look, okay, you did not include this, please go back and include. So that is also an ipsative assessment. And then we have the norm reference assessment, which I think we are familiar with. This one, a norm reference assessment, compare an individual to a group of their peers, usually based on national standards and occasionally adjusted for age, ethnicity, or other demographics. So like an IQ test, right? I don't think we do that in our schools, right? We don't do, you know, where I come from, we can't, only your ed psych and your psychometrist, they can administer those tests. And then here you have what is the WASE, right? Which they take when they're how old? 16? It depends. So the purpose is for, you know, to kind of like stream them, right? Those that will go to university and those that needs to maybe take the vocational, the technical vocational. So I've done my research. I'm proud of myself. Okay, and then the last one, the criterion reference assessment, right? So it's assessing students' performance against a grade level expectation. So like your end of unit or your final test or your exam. So this probably give maybe after, you know, you feel, I don't know, maybe if you have a policy that they say at the end of, we have the exam week, of your test week, then you can give the criteria. So the whole idea is to assess the student's performance against the grade level. Like we know that at a certain grade, these are the expectations. The child must be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So with that being said, please, do we have any question? Any comment, any input, things that I hope teachers, because they are not saying anything, we are reflecting on how I tell you what, we are all doing this. We are all, some of the things we are doing, right? So like I said, we are here to kind of like remind ourselves also that some of the things we are on track, some of the things we also have to let go, right? So some of the things we also have to let go. And then, yeah. So any question, please, any input, anything you want to share? Okay, you'll have access to this. If there are no questions, comments, or please, my presentation is done. Thank you very much.